We are back on the Best Life Code with Dr. Rudy. How are you?
Vivek, it's been a long time, my friend. So happy to be here. So happy to be talking. I can't stop talking, man. Summer has been great. Took a summer break, took my girls to college. I'm an empty nester, but I'm ready to get back on the podcast. Let's go.
And before we talk about this, Dr. Rudy, I know you got younger after your break, and that's great. But I got some really fascinating news for you. This is just now, before our call, I got a text message, and the Best Life Code is number 3 in United States medicine category right now, today, at
Number
this moment.
3?
Number 3.
Wow.
3. So
Wow, Vivek, great news.
First, I couldn't believe it. So I had to check again. So I opened the dashboard. I have it open on the tracker right now on Apple Chart. It's on the front line on Apple Podcast Medicine. Third number is showing up. The best.
Amazing. Wow. I'm excited. I'm humbled. I want to thank anybody listening. And I'm so glad to hear that it's resonating with people. Again, Vivek, me and you, man, I love the way we go back and forth. And we have so many projects for that podcast. So for every listener, thank you. And Vivek, the episode today is going to be a great one.
Yeah, I'm ready. Again, I just want to take a moment that Dr. Rudy has put his heart, soul, sweat, blood, tear into telling us everything that he has, and he's been very vocal. And all I can say is it's been like a journey of enlightenment, even with just being your partner on the other side, just to learn it. And I'm glad we are bringing this to a lot of people across the world. So, and today we are going to talk about a big problem that we are seeing in America right now, right, Dr. Rudy? It is really the Great Sex Recession. That's what they're saying it. And so we're going to talk about that today. So let's first start with some staggering stats here. And this is by the Institute of Family Studies. And in 1990, 55% of adults reported weekly sex. Now by 2024, that number has dropped to 37%. For 18 to 29 years old, 24% reported having no sex at all in the past year, double the rate from the just last decade. And the last one is even more crazy to me. 75% of people said small gestures like hand holding meant more to them than sex itself. Wow. So from your perspective as a physician, is this just a social shift, or are we seeing a deeper physiological, psychological decline in sex health?
Man, I'm really excited to talk about this subject because I confront it in my clinical practice every day. So let me kind of go back over what you said, right? This episode is about the Great Sex Recession that's happening in our society. We reviewed an article together talking about this. And I like that term because it really caught my attention. We are going through a sex slump, a sex recession. And if it was dollars we were talking about, it will be in the news. Those numbers you said, in the 1990s, 55% of Americans reported having sex at least once a week. It's down to like 37%. That's a huge shift. In younger people, 18 to 29, more than almost 25% of them reported not having sex over the past year. At this age, you should be having sex all the time. And the last one, that 75% of people are reporting that intimacy, non-sexual acts, actually may bring them more satisfaction than the actual sexual act. So let's kind of go deeper on this. I feel like those statistics, when you listen to them, it makes you realize that something is going on with our society. Because we are sexual animals at the end of the day. Sexual health should be part of our overall health. Because many studies show that people who have regular sex have lower rates of depression. When you have sex, you release beneficial hormones, beneficial cytokines. It lowers your cortisol level. So something is going on. So now when you ask, the big question is, there's no question that we are going through a great sex recession. There's no questions that when you talk to the younger generation, Gen Z and the millennials, that there is an issue with even connecting with the opposite sex. Why? Why are we seeing this? And the answer, anything in medicine is never simple. It's never just one thing. It's multifactorial. But many things, we can say for sure, there's been a shift in our culture, right? Porn, our phone. We have on our phone porn that is so available. Is it mostly boys who are looking at porn? There's even something called porn-induced erectile dysfunction or porn-induced sexual dysmorphia. Because a lot of young people who look at porn, that's their only way. That was their sex ed. It was looking at porn. So it's hard for them to relate to the different sex. Women now, young women are not as passive as they used to be. They say that they won't accept some of the pressure that men used to put on them. So it's not as men just dictate everything. Now the opposite also goes. With Me Too movement, there's an issue that men sometimes are scared to be more voiceful or to be pursuing the woman more, not to be labeled quote unquote toxic masculinity or stalker or let the woman have choice. So there are so many different factors playing into those statistics. And then we're going to talk again, because I'm an MD, we're going to talk about the biological reason that may be there also. So there's a cultural shift, there's a psychological shift, and we're also going to take a good amount of time talking about the biological shift, how hormones affect our libido and our sexual performance.
And you have obviously in our discussion mentioned this term spread, and you have a full form to that is sexual performance related anxiety and depression. That's what you're calling spread. So can you walk us through the full cycle, what that and how does anxiety is leading to erectile dysfunction or low desire, which then fuels, depression, which then makes intimacy harder. Can you walk us through that?
Definitely. So that's very interesting. You know me, I like to come up with interesting phrases so people can get caught up. So I coined that term, spread, sexual performance related anxiety and depression. And I see so many people with this, mostly men, but it can definitely affect women. So when you think about the normal heterosexual relationship, that's what I can talk about because that's what I see. The men, usually sex is a performance. They have to perform. They have to make sure that the woman is satisfied. They have to, if not, they will talk about them. So sex has become a performance. Unfortunately, with everything that we've been talking about, with the low testosterone epidemic that we're seeing happening now, sometimes the men cannot perform adequately. And it doesn't always mean erectile dysfunction. It can mean premature ejaculation. It may mean that you did not, for whatever reason, you did not satisfy your partner. And that creates anxiety. Actually, in the DSM-5, which is the book of psychiatric diagnosis, there is a term. It's sexual performance anxiety. So, a lot of men may get this. Am I going to get a strong enough erection? Is it going to come down while we're having sex? Am I going to make sure that she comes, that she has an orgasm? And it's in your mind. And for men, once it's in your mind, it starts playing tricks on you. Things can happen. But I updated that term to include depression in it. It's not just anxiety, because I've had many, many young men that I've evaluated in my clinic and would tell me, Doc, I'm depressed. But when I go deeper, I see that they're not satisfied with their sexual performance. Their partner, either they experience, whether I don't even like to call it erectile dysfunction, I call it erectile issues. It may not be that they have a full dysfunction, but maybe it wasn't strong enough, or maybe they lost it while, or maybe they had their orgasm too early, and the woman is not happy about this. What happens with that when that happens, right? Let's say the guy finishes too quick. The woman didn't get hers. There's resentment. The woman is not happy. The guy feels it, takes that home. Now he says, man, I'm not good enough. The next time he tries to have sex, all this comes with him. And it doesn't just create anxiety, it creates mood changes. So many guys I've seen have come and told me, Doc, I'm depressed. When I went deeper with them, they're not having great sex. Whatever I can do to help this, and we'll go over solutions after. But whether it is, if testosterone is lacking, I institute testosterone therapy, nitric oxide therapy, daily Cialis, Viagra is needed, or whatever it takes to make it that the man can satisfy his partner. Depression is gone. I tell him, for a lot of young men who have depression, I'm like, what you need is a couple of nights of great sex, and then you'll see how your depression lifts. I don't want to oversimplify depression, but when I have guys who come to me that I see that they're talking about erectile issues, low libido, then I ask further questions. How satisfied is your partner? How do you feel? How do you feel that you're satisfying your partner? I see a lot of couples together also, because that's a very difficult subject. But sexual performance related anxiety and depression is real. And I coined that term so that if a couple is listening to this, that somewhere you can put a cute little term into a problem that goes deep and that's difficult and awkward to bring up. And let
True.
me say that also, it can happen to women also. I never thought about this, but I've been talking to a lot of my female patients, and some women will have this because the women feel like they don't satisfy their partners. And, again, there comes porn. The guy wants to do all these crazy things. And then the woman feels that, maybe she wants to have just regular sex and that's not good enough. And she feels like I'm not satisfying my partner. And then they start having negative feelings towards sex. And that can affect your mood and worsen or maybe cause depression. So I think the overall message we're going to have, and then we'll wrap up all of this at the end, is open communication is so important. And I see so many couples who never talk about sex. They engage in it, but nobody ever asks the time to say, hey, baby, are you satisfied? You remember we always talk about Bob Marley. Are you satisfied with the life you're living? Everybody should ask, are you satisfied with the sexual life we have? When was the last time you sat down with your partner and had what I like to call an intimacy check-in? You ask your partner, baby, how connected do you feel with me? Sexually and intimacy. Because we have to make a difference between those two words. The act of sex is part of intimacy, but intimacy is not only penetration or a sexual act. Women are better at us guys than this, Vivek. Women usually need some kind of intimacy, foreplay. Great sex doesn't start in the bedroom. It starts with the text you sent in the morning, with the anticipation, with you being nice. It carries all that. So it was a difficult concept even for me, who never had any formal sexual education, to realize that a sexual act is not just penetration. And that's why I like to call it intimacy. Holding hands, looking at each other, taking time for each other. All those are part of good sex. And good sex does help with mood, lowers cortisol, and has so many benefits that it is something I feel that we don't talk enough about, or when we talk about it, we just joke about it. We have to find a way to have open and compassionate conversations about this because it is important. It is part of health. It is part of life. And studies are very strong about this. The more satisfied you are with your sex life, the more satisfied you will score in overall life satisfaction.
I love the term you said, intimacy check-ins. So
ICI.
can you
Check in.
expand on that how can couples in general, how should they go about making sure, is it like something like, do it on daily, weekly?
Yeah. So,
What
the first thing again, always remember, whenever we talk, Bob Marley said, open your eyes and look within. Are you satisfied? So first, anybody listening to this, ask yourself that question first. Are you satisfied with your intimacy and your sexual life? Do you think your partner is satisfied with the intimacy and sexual life that you share? And if you say, I'm a 7 out of 10, I'm an 8 out of 10, I'm a 2 out of 10, wherever you are, the next question is, what can I do to improve it? And if you're in a couple, this is something you share with your partner. So I like this idea of an intimacy check-in once a week, once a month, whatever works for you. But I recommend once a week because, again, you want to feel connected with your partner. Sometimes we go through dry spells. I actually had a patient who texted me today, Doc, I'm doing this amazing business. My mind is going at it. I haven't had sex with 3 weeks in my wife. Is that bad? And he's panicking. And I'm like, no, it's not. Because your mind is so focused on that big deal that you're working, the last thing you want to think about is sex. And it's okay. But I'm like, make sure you communicate with your partner about this. Because if you don't, now she may think, oh, he doesn't love me anymore. It's because I gained some weight. It's because I don't wear makeup anymore. It's whatever. So open communication. So again, everything we always talk about. Ask yourself the question, do a self-assessment, because now this is a couple that engages two people. Engage your partner in it. Open conversation. And then once you have a score of where it is, you ask yourself, what can I do to improve it? And focus on intimacy, not just sexual act.
I know that we've talked about specifically about anxiety and depression. And, for men, when we talk about erectile issues, they can feel like it's an attack on manhood, right? It's the same thing for women when we talk about menopause and they feel it's an attack on femininity. So how do identity and self-worth kind of like amplifies sexual anxiety or depression in your mind?
That is the most important question. Because again, we are sexual animals. Sex is a part of everyday life. It's not just reproduction. Our culture has made sex too easy to access through the use of porn, but we're more disconnected than ever. The statistics we said here, right? That 55% of Americans used to have sex weekly, now 37%. And that to me, it's almost an overestimation, because when I talk to my patients, especially if they've been married for a long time, a lot of them are way less than that. It doesn't mean that we need less sex. I think we want more sex. It's just life is in the way. Politics is in the way. Busyness is in the way. Cortisol is in the way. And we're going to take each sex separately. How do we define a man, unfortunately, in our society? It's a virile man who has many women. That, again, growing up as a Caribbean man from Haiti, that's what I knew. The more conquest I had, the more of a man I was. So my college years were actually like this. It was about trying to hook up as much as I can, getting as many girls as I can. And my wife, who was my friend at that time, knew me during those times, right? And a lot of men still have that mentality. It's about how many can you get? So now if you have that mentality, and if you even look at many movies, the way we represent like what's the ideal male, it is a highly sexualized male, right? So there's a lot of male, that's how men get their worth. It's changing. I like to see that Gen Z and millennials are not as much, because the women are not accepting that much anymore. And men don't know what to do with themselves now. So my hope is that we can help redefine masculinity, right? That maybe you go through a stage like this, you get a lot of hookups, a lot of casual sex. But once you're engaged into whether you decide to do a monogamous relationship, and I'm going to talk about monogamous relationship because that's what I know. That's what I do. You know, I'm not against anything what other people do, but in my monogamous relationship and a lot of my patients, it's always, okay, you used to do this. Now, how do you make it that with one partner, you maintain this, I'm still a man, without having to have multiple conquests, without having to be that virilized, macho, over-aggressive type of man? It's redefining who you are as a man. And I'm going to say that satisfying my partner is still something very important to me, and it should be to every man. But I want every woman to feel the same. And it's not a satisfying my partner in a competitive way. It's like, as partners, the more intimate you can be and the more satisfied you both are with your sexual life and your intimacy in your life, the better you will be. So to me, it's every man who's listening to this should kind of take a look at themselves and ask, how toxic am I sometimes? Is my sexual life? Is my intimacy life? How can I improve it? Whoever your partner is, or if you have multiple partners, what makes you happy? How can you continue doing what makes you happy, but still having compassion, empathy, and still being somebody who spreads positivity around you instead of bringing a lot of negative? So it's a lot of self-assessment and redefining what a man should be and seeing that there's a new definition. And now I'm going to talk about women. It's the same thing for women. And then now if you look at a lot of the porn, it's all about performance. It's all about, like, my God, you look at porn nowadays, it's crazy. It's so performance driven. It's so like they focus on just one thing. It's just really realizing as a woman that intimacy is what's the most important. And women tend to drive that more. And my hope is that any couple together can find that good middle way, that you meet in the middle of intimacy, of great sex, of performance sex, because sometimes there's no question. A quickie is what you both need. A quickie may be what one of you needs. Can you have conversations as a couple to be like, what do you need? And I'll be there for you, but at the same time, respect my boundaries. That's a difficult dance. This year is 30 years that I've been with my wife, Yvette. 30 years with my wife, Keisha. And I'm so proud of this achievement. I'm so proud. A lot of my nephews and nieces are telling me they've seen me and my wife grow together. And they see us as an example, that we stayed together. We're building businesses together. And at the same time, we're so loving. We love to go out dancing. We maintain that intimacy. Whereas many of my friends have gotten through a divorce. The ones that did not go through a divorce, you see the relationship, you're like, those two should not be together anymore. So it's not easy. That's one of the hardest things to do, right? Is to maintain passion in a long-term relationship, where my wife now has become my better half. She's my sister. She's my best friend. She's my family. How do you maintain that I still want her to be the object of my sexual desire, my sexual fantasy? It's a difficult act to do, but for easy things, what I tell people, take vacations together without the kids. We've done that. We have twins. We've done that from the time the girls were 1 year old. We were lucky. We had help. We had our family members. We could. But I encourage everybody, if you can take a long vacation, take a staycation. You know what me and my wife used to do when we couldn't take a vacation? I would check in a hotel in my hometown, 10 minutes from my house. We spent one night in a hotel. Took us out of our daily routine. We met like teenagers. We got out. The routine kills intimacy. It does. But it's all, again, anybody listening today, that's what I want them to get out of this. Take a look at where you are. What can you improve? And hopefully, so what are we saying here? People can take one or two things and bring that to their everyday life. Get out of the routine sometimes. Think about what you would want done to you. Put yourself in your partner's shoes and know that intimacy doesn't start with the sexual act. It starts with the nice gesture that you did. For men, it starts with taking maybe some house chores and doing this. For women, it's realizing that sometimes the man needs more than just that hand holding. It's both partners meeting in the middle.
It's like intimacy is like, it's like a meal. You have to cook every day. You can't have it stale. Right. Right. So if you're not working with it, it will get stale.
Yeah.
Right. So just to oversimplify it here. But
And let me tell you something interesting, because right now I'm an empty nester. My twins went to college. I find so many, thank God, because me and my wife took many vacations, just the two of us. We go out dancing. We kept the intimacy going. So it's still going to be a big shock for us when it's just the two of us in the house and we don't have the kids as almost like the cement in our relationship. But I know many of my friends, when they became empty nesters, they look at each other, they're like, how do we even relate to each other if it's not through the kids? Don't let that happen. The kids are the most important thing in our lives. But I will say that your partner is the most important thing, because with a strong partnership, you'll do better with raising your kids. Not that I'm saying that, single moms, single dads cannot raise, but there's no question that you have a couple that is connected at all those levels. It makes for a better unit of the family. I truly believe that. But I have to tell you that we've seen many single women, single parent, do an amazing job. That's not the point, and I don't want anybody listening criticizing me on this. But if you could find a way that you find a great partner and you maintain that relationship, you care about your intimacy with that partner. It's not only for your kids. Life scores, life satisfaction gets better. Cortisol level gets lower. Your health gets better.
is performance. Should we go about banning this word? What's your take on that? Seems like it's putting a lot of pressure on people.
Yeah, but a word only carries the power that you give it, right? If we ban that word, what better word could we use? And eventually that other word will carry it. So any word, I try to not let any word carry too much power. And, because English is not my first language, I speak French, Creole, speak Spanish. There's different words that are better in one language versus the other. But the term performance in English does carry that anxiety with it. So should we change it, or should we change what comes behind it? And I think this is what this podcast is about. So each person listening again should be like, how do I approach sexual performance? Am I toxic in my sexual performance thinking? Am I more the negative? In negative, you can be a great lover, quote unquote, what great lover is, because each person, you may have great sex with that one person, but this person says sex was horrible because you didn't connect. So that's why for me, intimacy and connection should replace performance. But performance is the easier term to explain it. So we'll keep using performance. But whenever I say that, I'm hoping that, and that's what I do with each one of my patients. Stop thinking about performance, start thinking about presence and connection.
I love that.
So one thing that I came up with that I like to say, and it's for everything in health. Yes, I want to help my patients achieve peak performance, but peak performance is not the end all. Permanent presence is even more important. So we go from peak performance to permanent presence.
I love that. Permanent presence. And this is the key. And I think that's how we should refer performance to, especially in intimacy. And what advice, now you've given the solution, yes, do, have this checking, have this intimacy. But what's your advice for, especially for people who want to start talking about intimacy, but without shame? or blame? Obviously it's that barrier, right? Like when you start doing it, what's your advice there, or what advice you're giving to your patients?
Yeah, it's open communication and the right timing. Timing is everything. I've had many guys. Again, I do a lot of men's health, but I've had many guys. It's let's say they had tried to have sex with their partner, they lost the erection, or they didn't satisfy their partner. This is not the time to talk about it. Emotions are raw. There's resentment on both sides. You want to bring that conversation when you're in a good place and things are good. Maybe you take a moment, you had a good day together, you having a good dinner, and then this is when you want to bring it. If it's at a moment when the emotions are raw, that's a very difficult decision, a difficult conversation. So that's why I say timing is everything. If it's the men who had an issue, the woman sometimes doesn't know when to bring that. Or if she tries to bring that up to the men, it's like, I don't have a problem. And the men can become aggressive. Usually when men have some kind of performance issue, there's usually two responses. That they become aggressive or they withdraw into themselves. They just don't want to talk about it. And they kind of put a wall around them. And what's hard with men don't have a group of friends that they can go and be like, oh man, yeah, last night I had a miss with my girl. Men don't do this. Women can have a group of women that they get together. Oh my God, I was with my guy yesterday, it didn't work, I wasn't feeling it or whatever. Women can have that more. So I encourage men to have more of that conversation, to find a good friend or a good ally, a good buddy that they can talk about this. Because bringing that conversation is the most important thing. Again, let me not say the most important thing. I talk about health. If you go into health issues, you have cancer, you have heart disease, that may be the last thing that you have in your mind. But even in those cases, intimacy is important. I don't want any couple or nobody should live with no intimacy. You withdraw. I read something that loneliness, your brain cannot differentiate between loneliness and physical pain. We talk about neuroplasticity again a lot, how the brain can expand. Loneliness can decrease that. And that will bring intimacy in the part of loneliness. You can be in a couple and feel lonely. So those are really important conversations. Timing is the most important thing. And let me talk a little bit about now the biological reason, right? Let me start with women, because we've been talking a lot about men. So women, they've been traditionally known that they are the ones that have the least sexual desire. Actually, studies are showing the opposite, that women have as much, if not more, sexual desire than men. And a lot of times women can get bored with a partner faster than a man. And when you think biologically, that's how it was. Because a woman may want to have to go with different males, again, not men, like primates in general, animals, to get the man that's going to give her the best chance of reproduction and then to have successful offspring. So women, this thing that I thought that women don't want it as much as men, it is not true. So, but hormones can affect a woman's libido, desire, or sexual enjoyment. So perimenopause and menopause is a killer on libido. So for women, and now we're seeing that women are starting to have symptoms of perimenopause, sometimes in their 30s. So if you have a decrease in your estrogen, a decrease in your testosterone levels, for the women, their desire can go down, the vaginal dryness can happen, so sex becomes maybe more painful, too much friction, the enjoyment is not right. So doing a hormonal check is very, very important. So if a woman is starting to see this, a lot of times it can be hormones, especially if you're in that age range. So I encourage everybody, because again, that's what I can bring as the MD, besides just being a coach or a psychologist. We can check hormones. And if they're not optimized, we can optimize them. Bringing in bringing in estrogen, optimizing estrogen and testosterone in a woman can make magic for women. Actually, testosterone, the only FDA indication of testosterone for women is low libido. It's called hyposexual desire, HSDD, hyposexual desire disorder. That's the only FDA-approved indication for testosterone in women. So it does help. Estrogen, sometimes even intravaginal estrogen, can help restore the tissue, can help restore lubrication, and make sex much more enjoyable. So if you're in a couple and you're a guy and you've seen that maybe your girl is not enjoying sex the same way, maybe have that conversation. Could it be hormones? What can we do? Find the right medical team that can help you. Because not every gynecologist or primary care doctor is ready to talk about sex. If they're not trained for it, they don't have the time, there's a wall. Now let's talk about men. Men who experience any kind of hormone imbalance, testosterone is known to cause decreased libido. It's not the only reason. But one of the main symptoms I see with my patient who come with low T is decreased sex drive and decreased sexual performance. So it needs to be checked. And if it's low, it needs to be addressed. So the way I usually will check on a man, if he comes and tells me my sex drive is low, we check testosterone levels. And, we've done the talk about testosterone. If the levels are not adequate, we talk about possibly replacing that. I like to add, PDE5 inhibitor, the Viagra and Cialis of this world, have been a breakthrough medication. But let me paint a little picture really quick for you. And I remember that day, the 1990s, I think it was 1992. Bob Dole, the ex-senator Bob Dole, 70-something years old, was the first spokesperson for Viagra. And I remember it was a Super Bowl commercial for Viagra. It was mind-blowing that they were talking about sex on TV. And this old guy came and is like, if you have a problem in the bedroom, make sure you ask the doctor about the blue pill. People were like, oh my God, he talked about sex on TV. But it changed completely the conversation about sex and erectile issues and erectile dysfunction. So men had something there. Think about now, Vivek, all those companies pushing or prescribing Viagra online and Cialis, the Hims, Raw, Lemon. You can't open your computer and watch a sporting event or watch TV without seeing a commercial for this. What age are the people in those commercials? So from the 1990s until now, in 30 years, we went from a 70-something year old spokesperson for Viagra to now the target population is in the 30s. So something has shifted, something has changed. There is an issue with erectile issue in our male society. There's no question. Now it's estimated that almost half of men over 40 have experienced some form of erectile issue. Half of people over 40. I see a lot of men in their 20s and 30s not satisfied with their erectile function. So it's a big problem. So I really love the Viagra and Cialis of this world. We tend to overdo it. I see a lot of young men who use it. They don't have a problem, but they take it just to increase performance. Again, that word performance, right? And then now they feel psychologically they cannot have sex without it. There's a psychological dependence that can happen. But for the patient, the person, the guy who's really experiencing erectile issues, taking a PDE5 inhibitor can be life-changing. And I like doing, for my guys who have issues with that, low-dose Cialis, low-dose tadalafil. So tadalafil, which is the generic name for Cialis, 5 milligrams. It's been indicated for better prostate health. But I'll get my guys who come to me with low testosterone or low sexual desire or any kind of erectile issues, I'll put them on low-dose daily tadalafil, 5 milligrams a day. Sometimes I start lower, 2.5 milligrams a day, 2.5 milligrams every other day, whatever the dose is, but knowing that that can help. And, those medications, what they are vasodilators. They bring more blood flow to the penis, but they also bring more blood flow everywhere. Actually, new studies are showing that patients who take tadalafil, Cialis regularly have less risk of dementia because they have better blood flow to the brain. Or is it because they have better sex? So the first thing I'll do with a patient who has that issue, testosterone as indicated, low-dose tadalafil as indicated, and nitric oxide supplementation. Nitric oxide is also part of endothelial function. That's the lining of the arteries to make sure that blood flow comes in. So we have also an epidemic of low nitric oxide in our society because we don't eat the right foods. The processed foods doesn't have nitric oxide. Even the vegetables now compared to 30, 40 years ago have less nitric oxide than they used to. So there are simple things that you can do if a man sees that he doesn't have the right erectile function that he wants. Losing weight, losing body fat, decreasing inflammation, exercising, maintaining good cardiovascular health, the right supplementation, nitric oxide, and then if necessary, daily or regular Cialis and testosterone as indicated. And for a woman, all of those things remain the same. Being active, exercising, and then hormone health. Do you need to take a look at this?
I know this
Ooh,
is
that was a lot.
heavy topic. We're gonna do a cue to something humorous that I read was like Kelly Ripa joked that maybe weed and phones are the reason why people are having less sex. So do you think that's, first of all, there is truth to that? And then how do we keep the humor part of intimacy going?
Yeah, again, we've been very serious in talking about this, and I saw that on social media. Kelly Ripa, which I don't watch her show, but from time to time I see some things. I think she's great, her and her husband, and I like the way they like they go to back and forth. But she brought that subject. Now, almost every podcast is talking about this, the Great Sex Recession. And she brought the subject and she made the joke. Are our phones and weed killing our sex drive? You know what? She has a point. Because really, again, the intimacy check-in. How many times have you seen couples together? They are each in their own worlds, doom scrolling on their phones, and no contact, no eye contact, no physical contact. Sometimes you're laying down in your bed with your partner, you each in your own world. Again, I love my phone. I am guilty of doom scrolling. My news feed is amazing. My algorithm is great. I laugh. I like to see dancing. I like to see so it's great, but you can get lost on this. And when it comes to taking any kind of substance, it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. For example, alcohol tends to be, especially for men performance, it tends to be a downer. A lot of times men think they need to drink alcohol to get the nerves to approach a woman, but it tends to be a downer for sexual function. So be careful with this. Weed, too much of anything, too much weed, you can do anything. So that was her joke. But I'm going to tell you, if anybody is into smoking and it's legal in your state, sometimes you and your partner get into something like this if it's accessible to you. And that makes you forget the everyday of life and then connect better. There's a lot of place now, psilocybin, we talk a lot about this for the brain, but psilocybin in many states where it's decriminalized, I know many sex therapists who use psilocybin as for couples retreat, for sexual therapy, because it removes a lot of the already formed ideas that you have. It may take you away from your daily busy life or what the kids fed. Is the mortgage paid? How are we going to pay our bills tomorrow? So sometimes a little weed, a little psilocybin. Again, I'm not telling people to go and do things that are not legal, and I'm not pushing drugs. But if that's what works for you and your partner, and sometimes you need something to kind of make you forget about your everyday life, it's whatever works for you. But too much of everything can kill it. So, Kelly Ripa, you were right. Phones and weed may be killing our sex life. And for me, I'm going to say, your phone may be fun, but sometimes put it down. Look at your partner in the eye. Hold hands. Have something meaningful. Laugh. Dance, right? And if you need to take a little substance to make it a little easier, if that's what you're into, whatever it is, open communication, timing, most important things.
And how does all this now, the first term spread, connect back to my philosophy, make you healthy again? How can reclaiming sexual vitality be seen as a core part of health and not as a taboo add-on? Can you talk about that?
Because again, my best life philosophy is I want for each one of my patients to experience, live the best version of their lives, physically, mentally, sexually, and spiritually. So sexual health, sexual satisfaction, intimacy is a part of best life, is a part of holistic wellness. It's something that's usually very taboo. And again, if we go back to the mind, make you healthy again, who has the power to change that? You. You are the most important person that can first assess where you are in the intimacy check-in, discuss with your partner, and make changes. My goal is to empower each individual, me included. I'm doing that for myself, to look at my life and see where can I improve. And today we're talking about sexual health, sexual wellness in particular. I need to ask myself how satisfied I am. How satisfied is my partner with me? And I encourage each and everyone listening to this, ask yourself that question. After you ask yourself, look at what you can change. But sexual wellness and intimacy should be part of your formula to live a best life.
All right. This has been great. Once again, sex recession, we need to end after this episode, especially people who are listening this understand. And again, it goes back to the best life code that Dr. Rudy shares on this podcast. It all starts really from you realizing, questioning, and then taking action.
Yes. Very important here before we finish. Asking questions, doing a self-assessment, then take action. Because if you just ask and you don't take action, you'll be resentful. If you take action without asking, you may take the wrong action.
So the sex recession ends with you. And that's where we end
Exactly.
the session.
End of the conversation. Mic drop, Vivek.
All right. Thank you once again, Dr. Rudy. This has been great. Appreciate your time. And thanks to our listeners. You have been great. Keep coming back, keep listening, and make us now one. I know we're getting great,
Yes, we're at number
but
3. Let's go to number 1, baby.
yes, thank you. All right. Thank you. Thank you all.
Take care.